Welcome to Save the Thunder, everybody. Today, I would like to talk about how the roadmap gets made. Sound like a good topic? Okay, let's get into it. Yeah. So there we go. So when you think about a software roadmap, typically you think about a company, say like Microsoft, making Windows, and they're looking at, you know, reports from users on bugs to fix, things that could be improved in their product. Um, Additionally, they probably have some other ideas about what they want to work on, what they think people will want, or what they think, and in a lot of products will generate more revenue. And and the roadmap gets built by a product manager or product owner within the organization, and then it gets rolled out through the product. Um, you know, with a lot of software, you don't even necessarily see a roadmap. Many companies don't even publish a roadmap. Um, but more and more people, the software companies do because they know that builds excitement, and then they probably don't get a ton of emails asking for something because if they look and see that it's on the roadmap, they'll hold their comments. Um, Thunderbird is open source software. I'm sure everyone listening to this understands that, uh, and probably preaching to the choir. Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about our process, how that has evolved over the years, and what we hope the optimal state will be, which I think we're getting closer and closer to every year. Uh, I will call on people to help me tell this story, but to start it out, when when I first came on almost 8 years ago now, uh, Thunderbird was uh, a community project completely driven by a volunteer community council, which is still around, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I hope that what I say is not offensive to the people who served on the council then, which I served alongside them. But uh, when I came on, there was not a strict roadmap as we would think about it today, uh, with the features that we hope to ship laid out in a really readable, digestible way. Uh, the project was more in triage mode then, coming off of a loss of funding and loss of support for the product. And so uh, a lot of little things were done, but there weren't many, sorry, big concerted efforts to move the product forward in super significant ways. Um, I don't know if anybody wants to chime in and correct me there. I'm looking at Patrick if he's in a position to speak on this call. If not, that's okay.
I think I would consider the roadmap to be a list of random features that people have wanted over time and not a holistic view of the things that need to be upgraded and improved, especially the underlying tech debt that needed to be fixed in order to actually implement new modern features,
At that
which
time,
I,
yeah,
yeah, at that time, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm not the only one who has that read on history. Thank you, Phil or Patrick. Um, so since then, obviously, thanks to our wonderful user community who has supported us both in helping us to improve the product with their ideas and bug reports, but also in supporting us monetarily so that we could hire more developers, hire more people to work on Thunderbird. That has changed quite a lot over the year, how we lay out what we're going to do in the future. And that really started to improve significantly around the Supernova release, which was 2020, what? I don't want to get it wrong. 20, I think it's 2023. And that's when we really made a concerted effort to develop a holistic roadmap that drove somewhere, that drove to an endpoint, that drove with a product vision, a really coherent product vision, which was Thunderbird modernized to look like an application from 2023 instead of an application from 1999. Uh, I'm sorry, that's not exactly fair, but it's not that far off either. And since then, and we developed that um, with a lot of different input from the community. And we did bring some people kicking and screaming along who didn't want the UX to change. I'm so sorry that that happened, but it had to be done. But now we're right in the middle of building new roadmaps right now to be approved for 2026. And how that looks this year is um, much more nuanced than it has been in past years. The process as it exists and as it's laid out in our bylaws, in the project's bylaws, is that the Thunderbird Council, 7 folks elected from our community, work with those of us who are employed to work on Thunderbird every day. We work in a organization called MZLA, and we try to take in the broader community input, what we know from our users, which doesn't always necessarily overlap with what those who are most engaged, think needs to change. And then additionally with the council, who has kind of product visions of their own, informed product visions about what the future of Thunderbird should be. And we have to develop now 3 different roadmaps. A roadmap for Thunderbird Desktop, a roadmap for Thunderbird on Android, and a roadmap for services. So that's appointment, Thunderbird Send, and Thundermail at the moment. Very soon, right now we're, working on Thunderbird for iOS, but we haven't really kicked off much of a roadmap process around that. It's kind of like, let's get it sending and receiving email, and that will be a good state to start playing with it more and coming up with ideas for that. I'll make an observation and then I'd like to solicit questions from the room. The reason we do it this way, the reason that it's formed in concert with between the Thunderbird Council and, MZLA, the folks working on Thunderbird, developing it every day, is to keep everybody honest. Uh, someone brought up this idea from Cory Doctorow, who is a Thunderbird user, by the way. I have spoken to him about his Thunderbird use, and also just a great author. I would recommend checking out his books. He pointed out that so many of the tools we use nowadays, so many of the software tools we use nowadays, have kind of fallen into this cycle of, he calls it, enshouldification. which means in a nutshell, and you can look it up, it gets worse often because of a profit motive or some other, insert whatever the ills are that you can think of, dark patterns, also driven by profit and things like that. When we create products in like Thunderbird, in Mozilla land, we have the Mozilla Manifesto. And if you've never looked at it, I encourage you to just type into the search engine of your choice, Mozilla Manifesto, and you'll be able to read it. There are 10 principles in it, and they're pretty basic. They boil down to you can't just make tech that makes a profit. It has to respect the person using it. And there are, that is critical, I think, especially in this moment that we're at, where so much of tech, it turns you into a product instead of having you be providing you a tool that you use to get things done and to be more productive and to live a healthier, happier life. So the end of my lecture is I think that this way we have of creating roadmaps, working with this community body, working with obviously our larger community, keeps us honest and makes sure that at the end of the day, what people receive actually enriches their life and improves it. Having said my lecture, I wanted to talk about the roadmap today. And so I hope you guys have some questions of your own if you want to ask, or you can play a proxy for those who might be listening to this and maybe think up some questions they may have. Any first takers or any comments on that?
I have a question. How does the roadmap take into account community contributions besides suggested ideas and things that they complain about a lot?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't think we have a really solid answer either. There are things that we have flagged as nice to haves in past roadmaps that people have picked up and done, but there are not a ton of those. Usually what we get in the way of contributions from my perspective, and Toby's a lot closer to it than I am, so he might have a different take, but usually folks are scratching their own itch, and it's not something we've necessarily identified on the roadmap, but it's just like, obviously, we've all had that where it's like this one thing in Thunderbird is bugging the crap out of me. I'm going to just try to go and fix it. One of those is the ability to move folders around in that side panel. I know that was a feature that a contributor worked on, and I believe that works today. Yes, you can move folders around freely. I'm not sure that we actually took all of that original work without modification. I do think it got some revisions on it, but that was not on that was not necessarily on the roadmap. It was something that I remember folks on the team wanted to do, but ultimately we got some patches. Toby, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, that was a very helpful contribution and something that had been on the list for a very long time. Not just that contributor was itching, let's say. So it was lovely to enable that. It was supported by the team to add tests and some few changes to bring it up to in line with some of the other work that we were doing. But in general, we love it when contributors can either look at what we have on the roadmap or help us create where we're heading, because that's in the end we're pleasing the community.
To Heather's question, have you seen recently anybody take up something that has been on a published roadmap or in planning that we said, hey, we're going to do this and done it proactively on our behalf? Have you seen any contributor do that lately?
Yeah, I mean it happened this morning. It's happening all the time. And whether it's a small roadmap item or part of a larger thing that we're heading towards, it's great to see that users aren't just off down their own rabbit holes, that they're helping to take the product where we're hoping that it will go based on the feedback that we're gathering all the time. Yeah, there's a couple of very active contributors who are in step with where we're heading. And yeah, just this morning, well, just a few minutes ago, had another contribution come in. So it's great to see.
Yeah. And I guess I'm really I already locked my brain into Thunderbird desktop, but I do know that we have a
Mm.
couple of contributors on Android also who do keep up and who submit patches in line with the roadmap. Um, uh, there's a couple of them. Shamim comes to mind, and then I think there's someone else over there as well. So I think we did a call out for some of them in blog posts a while back. So that's encouraging to hear, Toby. I do know that it's obviously really appreciated, and sometimes the reason that we don't tackle something on somebody's wish list, even if there are discussions about it, is just a lack of time, a lack of developer time. So uh, sometimes I get the question of, well, Thunderbird, you guys aren't currently working on that. Does that mean that you don't want to see this happen? And a lot of times it's like, well, no, we'd like to see that happen. We just need hands to do it. And so I encourage anybody who has um, an itch that they're trying to scratch to just ping us, ask, hey, I'm willing to do this. What would be the best approach? And I'm sure that we'd be more than happy to help you figure out a way forward. Um, Toby, while we have you on camera, any other observations there that you think are interesting that our community
Well,
might
just,
want to know?
well, on that topic, it's sometimes the thing that recently happened this morning was someone picked up something that we had begun working on some time ago, and there are always priorities, and the priorities change based on some of the rabbit holes that we have to go down because of upstream changes. The situation we found ourselves in, we'd started something but realized that it would be better to tackle something else first. So it does look like the Thunderbird team is not making progress on this, but it's not so much that we have to finish something else before we get to the thing that's been outstanding for a long time. And being able to go back and tell everybody that these are our thoughts and these are the reasons, I think is what we can do better at. And I'd love for the community to be more involved in those conversations so it's clearer about the path that we're heading down.
And you've been really good about consistently sending messages to TB planning, which is one of our mailing lists, which I do encourage folks, and not just you, there have been other people on the team, especially around EWS, who have been updating that group pretty consistently. And so I do encourage folks, if you're the type of person who's listening to this and you want to see some of the inside baseball of all of this, please go and sign up for our Thunderbird planning mailing list so you can see these kind of updates. And if you are thinking about contributing, you can kind of keep up with thinking and, the where some of these projects have led us and where we could use help, to Toby's point. Any other thoughts on contributions?
I think just kind of to the point of contributions, it's not just writing code, right? So EWS is a good example with, call for testing and we needed testing. And the more users we can get on beta to test both mobile and desktop, the better. If they're willing to hit a few bumps in the road. But yeah, I mean, opening bugs, testing, there's all kinds of ways to contribute, and they're all appreciated.
Yeah, right now we're testing a couple of regressions, if you want to call them that, in Android. And that definitely helps. There's getting on beta, getting on daily, on Thunderbird desktop. If you're ready to ride that train, that can be really helpful if you're willing to absorb some bugs here and there, in order to just tell us where things are not working for you, or if they are finally fixed. That's helpful too. Uh, Thank you for that call out, Corey. And that helps accelerate the roadmap. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so it sounds like the contributions kind of go hand in hand with the roadmap, right? They help support it. They help the roadmap can guide contributors. But it's also not something you can totally plan for and put on the roadmap.
Yeah. I think that's kind of an ebb and flow too. I don't know kind of folks' current feeling on this, but um, we do have some contributors who I know show up consistently and do what they set out to do or what they say they're going to do, and that's very helpful too. And um, I guess that speaks to something that is like fundamental about this project, which is that uh, Thunderbird is it's not just this consumable product. It is a project, and because of the license that it's under, we don't disown it. The people who come and contribute and engage and create it, co-create it with us, you own it too. Um, and so anyway, it's if you want to engage in the roadmap process, though, there are a few different ways to do that. And one of them is just to show up and participate in our different communications channels and flag things there. Additionally, we have, as pointed out earlier, this community council, which I encourage folks to reach out to and flag what's on their mind. Of course, you can also reach out to us via the different avenues to do that in a more formal way, such as Bugzilla for the desktop, or Connect, which is I don't know if I can rattle off the URL. I'm pretty sure it's connect.mozilla.org. Is that right? Yes, connect.mozilla.org. And there you can submit ideas as well. I encourage you to engage where you are most comfortable. And however, if you have just a big idea, Connect is probably the better place to share that. If you have a more targeted, like this doesn't quite work the way I want it to, that's more like a Bugzilla or GitHub issue. Are there any other places that you all would encourage folks to engage in order to affect the roadmap?
Not to affect the roadmap, but I would encourage lots of engagement in support forums.
Engage with the council. That's the other
And
one.
And how do you recommend doing that best, Patrick?
So the council is made up of a bunch of people that are involved in different as areas of Thunderbird. Um, I mean, I think you've posted many or mentioned many of the formal ways of seeing things, but like, the roadmaps are public. If you were to see those and be like, why is this happening? I completely disagree with, my donations being used for this or things like that. You can reach out to us. Our email address is public. We're all on Matrix. You can contact us there as well. Um, we don't have like a kind of formal spot to ask us questions or anything like that, but we're always open for conversations.
Yeah, the obviously like Patrick said, there's planning, but also um, I think we have published in at least a couple places the current council, who they are, and you can definitely reach out to them and have a conversation. Uh, council.thunderbird.net is a resource to learn more about them as well. Uh, and I'm not actually sure if that yes. So on that site there is a uh, members section which lists out how to get in contact with the different council members. And like Patrick said, they come from a variety of backgrounds and have a different focuses. So yeah, that's a great avenue. And there we're working on the roadmap right now. That group and a few of us who work on the product every day, and um, so their input goes directly into the roadmap, and they're supposed to be your representatives. So my point is, send all your feedback to Patrick, and he'll get it over to us.
Tim pointed out that the best mailing address to contact the council is council@thunderbird.net.
Hope you're ready, Tim. Hope you're ready for the emails. Uh, yeah. And this has always been an experiment. How do we best incorporate everyone's feedback from the users? The users are broad as a broad category, which there are different types of users. Are there are a lot of them, and a lot of them are silent, in that they're not popping into Bugzilla or into Connect or reaching out to one of us in order to share, what they want out of the product. One thing that Heather has thought an awful lot about, but tends to be a kind of controversial topic in some circles, is our use of telemetry, which does affect the roadmap. When we learn about telemetry is our anonymous way of collecting user interactions to better understand how people are using Thunderbird. And that helps us inform our decisions. Are people using this feature? Yes, no. How are they using this feature? Heather, do you want to take us on a journey through that and why that's helpful and important in our decision making?
Yeah, absolutely. Telemetry can be used as an information tool for developers to know what features are really important to users, which ones maybe are not so useful and just clutter up the UI, and can make decisions that improve the experience using the product. And we can say that we're not collecting any sort of personally identifiable information, and we can point to the code exactly to prove it. Like closed source projects can't say that. And if you read the terms and service of Outlook, it says that they will be sharing your information with 801 partners. We don't do that. So we don't share the information. We're simply gathering information to inform changes that should be made in the product to improve the experience for everybody. So if people have it turned off, I encourage you to turn it on in the about config. And if it's turned on, please leave it turned on. It helps us make better informed decisions. So I love Linux, and a lot of Linux users turn it off. But then that skews our metrics of how many people are using it on Linux. And if it's much lower, then if the metrics show much lower than is actually being used, then it's hard to justify spending more resources to improve the experience on Linux. So think about the broader, impact that respectful telemetry can provide.
If somebody put it this way, and I quite liked it. It's kind of software democracy in a way. Each time we get a piece of information through telemetry, it helps reinforce your usage of the application. There have been now quite a few examples where we've had to have conversations about how are people using this piece? What parts are they using? What parts are they not? Because we're ultimately trying to fine tune the application to help you be more productive. But if you say, I use the menu, which is the one I think of, the right click menu this way, but there's no evidence of that in the telemetry, that's difficult. That we have to assume that there are not a whole lot of people using it the same way you are if there's no record of that in our telemetry. And so I encourage you to turn it on. It's a shtick for both Heather and I. Turn on telemetry. We don't collect any personal information. And it does really help us gain insights into how folks are using Thunderbird. Okay. What else? Anybody have any other thoughts on roadmaps? Anybody have any honest questions? Go ahead, Corey.
I was just gonna add, and maybe you already mentioned it, but is there a way that people can see the roadmaps publicly?
Yeah. So if you go to developer.thunderbird.net, there is both the roadmap and for desktop and the Android roadmap. Now, I have a deep desire to update how we share the roadmaps in 2026. I think that at this point, I've seen enough people do it right that I think visually we can produce it in a format that's easier to understand and easier to follow along with. So my promise to those who are listening in on this is in 2026 we will update probably where the roadmap lives and how it looks and how you interact with it. And I hope that will make it easier for everyone to follow along. I really like the note-taking tool Obsidian's roadmap because as they move through time, it's really easy to follow what they what they're doing when something is shipped, you know, and um anyway, I think we could do a better job of kind of the roadmap as a storytelling device to folks.
How do those roadmaps on developer.thunderbird.net correspond to the ones that Alex has shown previously that are Google Docs?
I believe that the desktop roadmap, I have to check it, but I think it's been updated recently and is close to right. Um, and then the Android roadmap is in sorely needs to be updated on that page. That says planned work for the 2024 release of Thunderbird for Android. So that one does not reflect the current state at all. So we'll have to get updated stuff there.
I think they do have another public roadmap. I don't know if that's worth mentioning. That's on GitHub. That probably is more up to date.
Yeah, I went and quickly looked at the wiki to see if I could find that roadmap, but I didn't find it immediately. So I can look for that, maybe ask Wolf for a link and then put that in DTN.
Yeah.
One of the nice, sorry, I was just going to say one of the nice things about like having like an updated public roadmap. It's not like it doesn't solve all the problems, but for people that contribute to translations in different languages, they can at least kind of see what features are getting worked on, what features are next up, just to kind of maybe get a little bit of an understanding of how much work might be coming their way.
Yeah. And Wolf points out there is a project roadmap for Thunderbird for Android in the repo. So in the no, well, we'll just have to post the link and then ultimately make our post this somewhere that's easily accessible to everybody. Yeah, this is exactly what we were just talking about. A good reason to kind of revisit how we share the roadmaps publicly and make sure that they reflect reality. And yeah, it's fun stuff. Keeping it up to date is probably the one of the most interesting parts because, as Toby said earlier, you can publish a roadmap, but if you find something that is kind of a blocker that you've got to knock out beforehand, making sure to go back and update that roadmap to include like, hey, now we have this body of work that's been sucked into this is a good thing to do. So, like I said, I think in 2026 we'll have a better way, probably something that reflects a our own kind of road mapping as it happens. But I'll keep folks updated on that.
I had one just about, the different categories of improvements and different parts of the roadmap. So you've got performance problems, ongoing security threats, the aging of the UI. Do you try and bucket your wish list and ensure that we're addressing something from each bucket, or does sometimes it's just like we're really behind in this area, we're going to focus all on this? How does that process work?
Yeah. Depends on who you ask, Toby. Depends on who you ask in the creation of the roadmap. There's been different versions of this that we've kind of like followed, at least from the seat we sit in here in MZLA developing it, which is kind of like we try to, in a cycle of a year has typically been our roadmap following the ESR, deliver something that makes the code base easier to maintain and easier to improve. That might be plumbing, that might be paying down technical debt, that could be a lot of different things. I'm always, as you know, and I'm sure that everybody who's ever interacted with me around the project is also pushing hard on what feature improvement can we make or new thing can we ship that'll move this forward. Sometimes that's a UI like with Supernova update. Sometimes that's a long requested feature. Or right now, what I am really eager to see is some of this UX work in Calendar to make that a better experience. And I think that we've had cycles where we've really leaned hard on one of those things, either in these like improvements that the user definitely sees and that hopefully enriches their life. And then for a long time we were, and everyone who's ever heard me speak before knows this, we had many cycles of just paying down technical debt. Which we still have quite a bit of technical debt. So we can't ever really completely escape with a code base like ours, not making some changes that don't necessarily, they're not big and flashy. It's not something that The Verge might write about, but there are things that need to be done in order to keep the code base maintainable and not a complete pain to work with. And so
Yeah, and I suppose if you're clever enough, you can weave those into some of those larger pieces. I'm thinking, we're adding support for Exchange, a protocol that is old, probably going to be dropped, but the work that's gone into doing it is paving the way for JMAP or new protocols. It's cleaning up the code base. It's making things bulletproof as we're doing this. It doesn't sound glam or flashy, but so many other things get done at the same time. So I suppose if you can think that way and see that your investment is going to pay off, it's worth doing some of those boring things. Yeah, it's well worth it.
that triggers, I am so sorry, that triggers a bit of a lecture in that, sometimes we see bugs where they're like, you're working on this, but you're not fixing our problem. And sometimes my answer is, that is fixing your problem. The thing that we're doing over here actually is rewriting the problem that, rewriting your problem out of existence. And so, yeah, it's hard, but I know Jeff, one of our backend engineers, has both written new things and solved a ton of kind of pain points for users all in one swift, series of patches, because whatever it was that was holding back, for instance, the new mail tab and being able to rearrange the elements there in new ways, such as card view and things like that, also happened to be a lot of technical debt that was creating a lot of bugs and maintenance burden. And
performance problems.
Exactly. Exactly right. Yeah. Good call out. Good call out. Yeah. If you're clever, you can make all those things work in concert. And we do have enough clever people hanging around the project that we're able to do that.
And I just want to say that our most recent community office hours was with Jeff and Alessandro talking about his new changes to the database, make this global message database that is enabling conversation view and a lot of other things. So people can go watch that. It should be posted on YouTube soon.
And I hope we have some. Oh, go ahead, Monica.
Just saying that should probably be posted. Probably the soonest would be around the end of this week, definitely by the beginning of next.
Cool. I said this in our AMA the other day. I'll reiterate it here. Some of these things take time. I guess that's the thing that I want to call out for the roadmap always, I saw a Reddit thread the other day talking about um our mock-ups, um probably from 2 cycles ago around supernova. And we want to continue moving towards the mock-ups that we provided originally. I mean, we've made some changes in our own thinking about some of those things that we mocked up. We've learned, could be done better, but ultimately that's where we want to go. And to Toby's point earlier, part of the challenge of our roadmap is what do you uncover on the way there that you have to knock out of the way before you can get there. I do think we're getting faster at that as a whole, as all the developers working on the project. Some of that's having paid down significant technical debt, but I think also just being able to plan better as a project. Like I said, when I came on, there was a lot of scratching one's own itch, not, we're going to go to the moon because whatever. But I think that's changing quite a bit. And I think that's kind of evident in our past releases. Roadmaps, they're fun. TLDR. Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in on that. I want to give Heather and anyone else who wants to a chance to just share any messages they have, anything that's going on in Thunderbird world that you want people to tune into or check out. Sorry to put you on this spot, Heather. But if anybody else has anything, or if you have a call for contributors, if you're like, hey, we could use contributors in this area, whatever it is, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think I'm excited about a lot of things coming, but I think if there was a hey, watch out for this really cool thing that's about to be widely available, it's probably going to be EWS. And I know that we're working internally to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page as far as like messaging. And I want to reiterate that calendar and address book won't work. Not everything is going to work out the door, but some core functionality will, and I mean does already in like daily. And I think Toby's done a good job of corralling people that have volunteered to help test and given feedback. And yeah, I think that's the shiny thing from my side. I mean, there are a lot of shiny things, but I think that's the one that's closest.
Yeah.
Good point.
I'd echo that, and I think my excitement is the fact that in order to implement that, we've had to understand and change some of the real inner workings of how protocols have been implemented in the product, and that was done a very long time ago. So having a team that is now aware of how to do the next one is so valuable. It's been a long time coming, but it's been an enjoyable project, and it's great to see that we're almost there.
If I'll say it explicitly and a part of the internet will jump out of their chair, but this is what will allow us to do JMAP. So there you go, internet. Post this part on Reddit every time this topic comes up. We're getting closer. We just learned how to do a new protocol that hasn't been done in at least 20 years in Thunderbird. So yeah, we now have some expertise in this area and can move on to doing even more interesting things. But thank you, Toby, and thank you to your team for all their hard work there. Tim, did you have a call out?
Yes, we had a great week last week with Asker Fox on the Sumo site, and also a lot of Thunderbird users are helped. So I want to call out everybody to keep the ball rolling and stay on Sumo and help the users. Help helping, please.
That's great. Yes. Yes. And Sumo, for the uninitiated, is support.mozilla.org, where users can both ask questions and folks like you in the audience, you out there, I see you. You can go and answer questions if you really know your Thunderbird.
And you can find a lot of resources about how to use things in Firefox and Thunderbird.
Yep, absolutely. There's a very comprehensive knowledge base there with a lot of helpful information. Inside secret, some of us who even work on the product sometimes check out the knowledge base when we forget how to do something.
I'd like to
What-
add that we would like like to ask for an extra call to help answer questions in the Thunderbird for Android Sumo space. I think we see a lot of activity on Git, which is amazing. But if there are any, people out there that have been using that fantastic product on Android and can go and try and help answer some user questions, that's great. All you have to do is just, be willing to be patient with people and ask for a little extra information, and it can go a long way. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that call out. Yeah. And we have a wonderful community over there who is just um, some of the best people in the world, people who willingly go and help others use this awesome tech. That's a special kind of person does that. Okay, cool. This concludes the state of the thunder this week. The state of the thunder is good, except for our Android roadmap. We're gonna have to update that. But other than that, everything's good. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Toby, Corey, Heather, Tim, Monica, Patrick, for your contributions to the conversation. And we'll do this again here very soon. So tune in next time. We'll see you here.